Welcome to the Psychiatry Residency program at McGill. I'm Dr. Nancy Lowe, Program Co-Director.
Hi, and I'm Dr. Paulina Bajcerovic, Co-Program Director.
I graduated from McGill Psychiatry, and after completing postdoctoral training in the US and Europe, I returned and have been in practice for just over 10 years.
I graduated from McGill Psychiatry and then went on to complete my fellowship training in geriatric psychiatry in the US, and I have been in practice since 2013. Together, we as program directors have a common vision to continue a tradition of excellence, but also to bring creativity and innovation to prepare residents for a bright future.
The goal of the program is to provide an environment where residents' needs are not just met, but also a place where residents can grow personally, be stimulated and challenged intellectually to achieve their maximum potential as residents and ultimately as unique psychiatrists.
Psychiatry residency at McGill is a very special time and place in one's life. These next 5 years will be filled with opportunities, experiences, and encounters that will shape your professional identity forever.
It's not too big, so you're not an anonymous number. People really know what you're interested in. They try to foster that interest and they try to accommodate to your needs as well.
So I was always kind of torn between the medicine, neurology, and psychiatry, and the program really allowed me to mature in my training and pick electives that suited my need in order to eventually do the fellowship in neuropsychiatry.
We believe we have the active ingredients to foster the development of a secure, compassionate, knowledgeable, thoughtful, and passionate psychiatrist.
2 essential ingredients include a strong resident cohesion and a solid partnership between the program and the residents at every level of psychiatry operations and initiatives.
I would say the highlights were the passion in general of all the teachers in McGill. I see that they're very dedicated in what they do. Either it's research, either it's a specific interest in psychotherapy.
Our program is based in Montreal, one of Canada's most vibrant and culturally diverse cities. And training in this city is coupled with the responsibility of offering excellent care in both English and French.
I spoke very limited grade 9 non-immersion level French when I started at McGill. I wasn't fully aware of how much French I would need to learn, but it was challenging at first. I have to say it can still be challenging depending on the patient. Having to work with patients and work with staff who are more francophone has really given me that motivation to actually get around to learning it. And I think honestly it's only more enriching is to be able to leave after 5 years, to be able to travel and understand a new culture has been very enriching for me personally.
Il ne faut pas avoir peur de venir à McGill à cause du français. On est plusieurs francophones dans notre année. Et puis l'adaptation, c'est sûr, pour le premier ou les 2 premiers mois, c'est un peu plus difficile. Mais en général, les gens s'adaptent très bien. Puis en fait, c'est vraiment une force d'être capable de pratiquer puis de faire des entrevues avec des patients dans les 2 langues, parce que c'est une population qu'on doit servir à Montréal, vu qu'il y a les 2 langues. Et puis ça a vraiment été une expérience enrichissante pour moi. J'ai trouvé que mon anglais s'est beaucoup amélioré au courant des 2 premières années. Donc c'est vraiment un message pour insister. Donc si vous êtes francophone, n'hésitez pas à venir à McGill à cause de ça, vous n'allez pas le regretter.
So I guess like from the outside, what psychodynamic therapy is pretty murky and nebulous. And some people have tried to compare psychodynamic therapy to performance art because really you're entering into the theater of the mind of the patient, you're enacting some of their dynamics, and you really have to be on your toes. You're kind of in this improvisational moment where every minute you're responding to whatever the patient is bringing forth.
So all those psychiatrists and psychoanalysts, as well as residents who are interested in psychoanalysis, we gather together on Wednesday evening, about once a month, to discuss those psychoanalytic issues that are relevant to us.
And there's this room with a huge picture of Freud on the back wall. And we were discussing a case of this colonel who had been involved in some sort of sex scandal, and it was amazing to see these psychoanalysts sparring with each other and discussing how they viewed the case from different points of view. And and also discovering our own opinions on what it meant to be human, this level of deviance, these taboos involved as well. And for me, at that moment, I felt, this is why I chose psychiatry.
One thing that I've been involved with throughout my residency, I've been involved in the Northern Track. And so this is an interest I've had for many years, is working with Indigenous people in the far north. And I was excited about how McGill was taking care of the patients in all of northern Quebec. So that's all of the Inuit communities and the Cree communities as well. So I started off even in R1 doing a month of family medicine up in Chisasibi, which is on James Bay. And I think it's important as Canadians for us to see that firsthand, to have an understanding what people exactly are facing. And, on a personal level too, I mean, these are communities with some of the highest suicide rates in the world. So I think as psychiatrists, it's important for us to provide service and care for these populations.
I had the opportunity to work up north in Inuit communities as a psychiatric consultant, and it immediately became apparent that not only could psychiatry offer something, but that there were a lot of questions that needed to be answered if we were going to be more effective. So I became involved in research in the north, working with Indigenous people, with Inuit in particular, in Nunavik in northern Quebec. And for me, it's been tremendously enriching, not only because it helps us to be of some use to people who have important challenges that they're facing and where mental health certainly plays a key role, but also because looking at mental health problems from a very different perspective really enlivens and enriches our own thinking.
One of the things that's been really wonderful to be involved with at McGill throughout my 5 years is a transcultural department, which is fairly unique to McGill. They do a ton of work with refugees, with recent immigrants, with Indigenous people. And it helps you to shift from the very kind of Western approach that we typically take in psychiatry and see things through a bit of a different lens.
At McGill, we have 3 core sites in child psychiatry. There's the Montreal Children's, the Jewish General Hospital, and the Douglas Hospital. In terms of why I love child psychiatry, I think that working with youth, and particularly the transition age youth, so kind of mid-adolescence to early adulthood, is actually where roughly 80% of mental disorders begin. So it's really a unique period to intervene in an individual's life. The other thing that I like about child psychiatry is that there's a lot of moving parts. You have to be a little bit quick on your feet. One moment you're working as an individual psychotherapist, pharmacologist. The next moment you're doing family therapy, parenting therapy, liaising with youth protection services, with schools. And then obviously, after gathering all of that collateral information, you're actually treating all of those different people or institutions that I just named. So it's complex. We tend to work as part of a big team. So it also helps you brush up on your leadership skills. So I really like that challenge, and I find it very fulfilling work.
What's really exciting about McGill research in psychiatry is that this is the place you come if you have an idea that you want to make happen. The program here has been incredibly supportive in helping residents start their own research projects, everything from ketamine clinics to artificial intelligence research to psychotherapy research. We have a really vibrant social and cultural psychiatry program that does a lot of research here. This is a place where you can get involved in an ongoing project or make your own. And the program has really been there for residents to help them make sure they have enough time to produce their research, produce support in helping to find mentors. And the research staff here, both the researchers and their support staff, have always been really warm and welcoming to residents who want to take on projects.
You know, you always hear about this, your clinical work is going to feed into your research, but I really think it's true. And it's not only that, it gives you a break. Research gives you a break from clinical work, and clinical work gives you a break from research. And so you're always stimulated, you're always challenged, you always learn new things.
To tell you how I got interested in psychiatry, I'll have to start by saying that I was not at all interested in psychiatry when I went into medicine, probably like a lot of people.
Before I was studying medicine, I actually was an occupational therapist.
At the time, I was considering, for example, ENT, which is quite different than psychiatry. When I went to medicine, I thought I would go into obsgyn, so that wasn't, psychiatry was definitely not what I thought I would end up in. And then I did my psychiatry rotation, I started it, and within 3 days, I was like, that's it, that's what I'm doing.
Initially, it was actually a class I took at the very end of high school about psychology. I ended up doing an undergraduate degree in psychology and doing research, and I was considering the possibility of becoming a researcher in psychology, but after working with rats for a couple years, I became very allergic to them, and I had to switch to people, which is a much better career choice because they're much more interesting.
After a month, Dr. Jaja pulled me aside and said, "You are going to become a psychiatrist." And I said, "I am?" I said, no, I'm not going to be a psychiatrist. No, you have to be a psychiatrist. So I said, well, I'll think about it. Why not?
And, you know, what finally convinced me that psychiatry was the right choice for me was that I really felt that when you become a psychiatrist, you help patients. You really have the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives.
I realized the potential in psychiatry and the added value of taking the time to speak to people.
Again, I think what type of work fits best with, you know, my personality is to basically go with the person, situation, their functioning, their way of seeing themselves in the world, which is already something I was looking at as an occupational therapist, and how, you know, an illness can impact so much in their daily life.
I have not really given up those medical skills. I still need to know a lot about how the body works and how pills interact with the body.
We have here the brain bank. This is it's a unique resource that in Canada, one of the only brain banks in the world. So where we have over 3,000 brains from individuals who die from many different causes. So the brains are received here, they're stored, half of the hemisphere is fixed in containers, and then the other half is frozen. It's processed here, we take pictures, catalog, weight the brain, and then process the tissue, and cut slices, and then go into the freezers that I showed you, as well as into the containers. All these are, are people that are very seriously and actively studying and trying to understand the mechanisms of mental illness. All these are microscopes. Allô, ça va? Oui.
My message for new applicants and people coming into psychiatry is there's a whole lot of different topics and different things in psychiatry that are very different and very, very interesting. One of the nice parts about residency is that you get the chance to explore things, to try a lot of things out. There's a lot of options open to people, and take advantage of whatever options are there that you might be interested in and explore things.
I think one of the most beautiful things at McGill is the sense of belonging and the sense of being at home and being a part of something meaningful. And even after you've completed your residency with us, McGill never really leaves you.
Because we have often long-term relationships with people, we can really make a difference in people's lives and really feel that. So the combination for me of intellectual excitement and challenge and of really making a difference for people is really unique, and I think we're fortunate here at McGill to have an environment that really encourages the kind of interdisciplinary and the kind of big thinking that allows people to learn to practice that way.